Today we're going to show you how we installed these inexpensive DIY windows in our shed.
Budget friendly. But before we get to that, I'm Anna and this is my husband Spencer. Back in 2013, we dove into DIY renovating our first home, never backing down from a project no matter the challenge.
Then, in 2019, we sold our first home and bought our second, setting the stage for even larger renovations. Along the way, we also discovered our passion for gardening with a special love for Japanese maples and conifers.
Lately, we've been hard at work building a 2-story shed to create space for even bigger dreams ahead.
If you like our content, please consider subscribing so that you're notified whenever our latest videos go live.
But most importantly, welcome! Enjoy the video and join us in our epic journey. Let's go! Hey guys, it is window day.
That's right, windows. So last time we left off, we were debating between doing the second roof next or doing the windows.
And what happened is that we decided, just like the trim, same decision, is that we thought we wouldn't really be able to reach up there if the little roof was in the way.
But on the positive side, guys, so this is, we're going to be installing DIY windows. So these are not windows that are pre-purchased at any big box store or anywhere else. This is actually making them in place.
Yeah, we're making our own windows. So we're making some fixed windows, which are pretty simple. We've actually made them before for our house.
And there's several installed in our house. They work great. So we're going to show how to make those.
And then we're also doing some operable windows, which we've decided that they should be sliding operable windows.
Right. Originally, we had thought maybe opening windows, but the more we looked into it and the hinges we'd have to use, and you'd see the hinges, Anna finally was like, wait, we can just do sliding.
Yeah.
And so we'll just do sliding. And so we have sliding windows we're putting in. We have the fixed windows that we're putting in. They're going to look great. There's a mixture of using some glass and some acrylic. So it should be an interesting video, and you'll be able to walk away with this knowing at least a little bit more about how to make windows if you haven't done it before. But we're just excited to get it done and have the house wrap gone.
Yeah.
So guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the other side. We better get going.
All right.
So the first window that we're going to take on today is this window here. This is the window that's facing the driveway when you drive up. It's on the left side of the shed if you're facing the shed forward. So the reason we're doing this first is because it is the largest window that we have, I think. It also will not open, so it's going to be one of the easier ones to work on. So I thought I would start there. The first thing I need to do to get a really good measurement is to just open this up. And the reason we have left these not cut until this point is because it works as a really great rain and wind screen. Until you actually need to cut it, it's best just to leave it until you're ready. So today we're ready.
Normally, what you would do is that you would install your windows before you put your siding on the building. That's the correct way to do it.
So what you do is you cut it at the corners, you come in, and then you do a horizontal strip across. I am not the straightest at doing this, but I will definitely try. It's about like that. You want to be right around the corner. Then you do the other side. And you just go across the middle. Hey!
Yeah.
So, we're open. Now the mosquito can get out of here.
The one that followed us in here.
Yeah, and I also had to get rid of several spiders already. They were not dangerous ones, but I had to get rid of them. Okay, so now what we want to do, normally how you do this is the house wrap comes to the inside instead of the outside, like this. And then what you would do is you would waterproof this section here that's here. Let me move my arm so you can see. But this section right here is where you normally would waterproof.
And normally the waterproofing, the membrane would go here and over, and it would wrap over your sheathing layer. So I'm just going to cut it straight down this rough, like halfway down the rough opening. All right.
All right, so I'm out here, and now I can see the window.
Yeah.
There it is.
And this one will be clear, and we'll be able to see through it. As soon as this was open, the air started moving through here, and it's a lot nicer.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's a lot nicer right here.
Well, this one I can't really make that opens unless we really want to do a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I know. This is the one we already have, the fixed piece of glass that is this size, so we're going to put it in here.
Hey, okay, so the next step I'm going to do is staple this. So normally in a house, you would absolutely tape all this instead of stapling it back. You would definitely tape it all with this kind of tape. So this is the window and flashing tape.
This is this crummy stuff that you can get locally at the hardware store. It's
Yeah.
not good.
I really don't like this. I prefer our Tyvek tape. I can't find it, so I'm going to just go with this. Might as well use it here because I'm not using it on our real house because it's that bad.
And this
Sorry.
is just what they carry in store at both of the big major places. So we're
All
just going to go with a stapling.
Yep, staple it. So there. Okay, so the next step is putting on this normally very sticky window seal and flashing stuff. So here's how you do it. You get it to the corner. Ideally, you've already cleaned it off, which we have tried to. And I'm going to try to get it just inside of this line here.
So
Getting it just inside of our already installed window trim.
So you are going over the cedar trim instead of just the other part like we talked about?
That's right. So I'm going over the cedar trim just to the very edge of it because I don't
cedar
want...
frame. The frame.
Right. So this is the cedar. If we're looking out there, that's the cedar.
And then point
And this
to
is the top of the siding, and I don't want the water to just dump on the top of the siding.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm going past it to the cedar. I'm fine with it dumping on cedar.
Yeah. And this siding is sheet siding, so it's a little different than other siding. So
Right, but it's still LP Smart Side, and you really don't want water, even on cement fiber, you don't want water coming in straight on the top of it.
and
like
even
this.
though this has been primed and the other one's painted too.
So I'm just pressing it in as I go. I don't think this is a pressure activated kind of seal. Basically, if you're getting a window seal tape for your house, you may not be able to find it in the store.
Yes, this
easily.
is the only thing that was available.
You may not be able to find it in the big box stores. You may have to special or custom order it, maybe Amazon. So it's just something to know.
And do note, like, you're supposed to wrap it up around the corner. Very expensive ones are stretchy tape that will go over the edge. This one isn't that type. And point out this is even has cracked in the corner, which is the exact opposite of what you want to happen.
Okay. So again, you're normally pushing the corner first, and then you work your way up. So this will do. That's installed. It's good enough. Over here in this corner, I wish that hadn't broken. I might have to put a little seam of caulk across there. So the next step we have, so we've installed the flashing. I'm going to measure from the outside because I want my piece to go over all of this, right? So I'm going to measure, and I want it.
That's on the outside of the building.
Right. This is the stop that's on the outside of the building. I want it to go a good ways in, and I'm going to say a good ways. I'm feeling it. Is really about 2.5 inches, maybe 3 inches. And that should work really well. That's about halfway in the 2x4. That'll work really nicely.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with 3 inches, which means I want this piece, in particular the bottom one, to be at least 3.25 to 3.5 inches.
You want it to hang over the edge and for like a little bit of a drip action.
Right. I kind of want it to be a drip edge. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to go make these stops so we have 3 inches for everybody else. Okay, so the next step for building this window is creating the stop blocks on the outward exterior side. We know the sides were going to be 3 inches and the bottom was going to be 3.5. I just remeasured. Our stock is actually 5.5 inches wide. I can get double the use if I make them a little smaller. So I'm going to go with 2 5/8, and I need to write that down. But I'm going to go with 2 5/8 for the sides, 2 5/8, and I'm going to do 3 1/8. Which would be about a 1/2 inch more for the actual bottom stop block. That will let me get a lot more use out of the material, so that's what I'm going to go for. Ideally, I'd also only use one board for the bottom. However, it's a little bit longer than our boards. The opening is 76.25, and our boards are actually only 72 inches long, or 6 feet. So I'm going to have to cut 2 down. Hopefully, it's going to be not too much waste, but it will be a little bit. So here we go. Okay, so now I've cut my pieces here to the correct length. So now what I need to do is put them through the table saw. There's one big caveat. So I have put this table saw, right now it's not plugged in. I've put this table saw to 15 degrees of an angle. And the reason for that is that when we put it up, this is for the bottom one only, we're gonna have a sort of shim underneath the back of it to angle it to the angle we want. However, we want it to still meet that window in a flush manner. This is really quite important. And the front I'm gonna do as well, just because we want it to look good. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's the next step. So I have this set, or my eventual goal is 3 1/8. I have it set to 3 1/4 right now of inches, so that once I get through both angled cuts, it'll still be right around 3 1/8. Okay, so now we have that cut. The idea is to get the other cut on the other side of it. So I'm just gonna go for that. This looks like it'll hit it just fine. I might need to make it a little terrible amount closer. That should get it. And I wanna make sure that it's gonna follow the same angle. So I have the angle on the right, I wanna make sure it's the same angle on the left. That looks the same. Here we go. Okay, so now this is cut. You'll see that we have both cuts. I don't know if you can see it, but both are angled at the same angle so that when it's here flush, this will be about straight downwards on the outside. You don't have to do this outside one. It could have been square. It would have been fine, but this should just look a little bit better. So I'm gonna go with that, and now I need to make a drip line underneath it, which I'll show you what that is. Okay, so now we have our angle cut. The next thing to do is put a drip line on it. So I've set this back to about 2 7/8 inches. So that'll be about a 1/4 inch back on the piece of wood. And what that does is when the water comes around, water tends to wrap and cling to things. When it comes around and hits that cut, it'll lose the water tension and it'll drop down. This is really important for your bottom pieces below the window. So you just wanna make sure to do this. Just to show you what that is. So this is, I don't know what the real name, I think it's called a drip line is the real name of it. But it's a little cut right here. It's a groove that I've cut in. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little groove and the water will come around here. It'll come around the front, drip down, it'll wrap back, and once it hits this line, it'll break the water tension and the water will just drop right down. Really important to do. So now that's done. Next step is installing it. Okay, so the next part of the window install is installing this bottom windowsill. And this is also the stop for the actual piece of glass. So if you see on this side, here I'll show you. So here's Anna.
I've got a measuring tape.
Anna's got a measuring tape. Okay. So right here, this is just that little 1/4 inch piece that I just cut off. When I look at it, actually looks a little bit less than a 1/4 inch, but that'll be fine. So what we're gonna do is try to put it underneath there so that when everything's pushed down, it keeps the angle that we want. Kind of like that.
And I'm going to be out here and I'm going to eyeball where the drip edge slot is and also pull it out and measure to make sure it's a consistent distance across.
Okay, so you go ahead and measure that first bit. I'll film you.
I really need to have like a ruler rather than a tape measure, but I can do it.
So you want it, yeah, and what she's trying to do here, let me see if I can get down
So
here.
that's a 1/2 inch right there. That's probably a good one to, but it kind of matters because if I tip this, it gives me a different measurement.
So first Anna's gonna get this one side where it needs to go.
Yep, that's probably good right there.
All right, now you hold it firm there because I've got to put this piece of wood underneath there. Okay, ready? Holding it firm.
Holding it firm.
Okay, is it still at the same spot?
Yeah, didn't move.
All right, so then I'm gonna get my tool. Okay, so now Anna's there. She's got it held to the right position. So I'm gonna take my tool. This is the galvanized. I'm gonna put it here, down here, away from Anna.
With my glasses on.
So that nail I just put in here, which is right here, that's going through the shim beneath it as well. All right, so then that's at the right spot. So I'm just gonna go through here, about like this. There we go.
All right, I'm gonna let go.
So now I'm just gonna go across it and hope that it's consistent.
Yeah, you need to push down.
Yeah.
It's kind of bowing up a little bit.
Yeah, I will. I'm just making sure that my cedar isn't pushing out any. There we go. Solidly on there, not going anywhere. Good stop.
Okay, let's do it again for the next one.
Okay, again for the other
Let
side.
me give this to you.
All right, I gotta put this down. Going back to the other side. Here's Anna.
Hey. All right. Well, I'm going to line this one up with this one mainly.
Yeah.
That's mainly what needs to happen.
All right, well, you get that. I can nail that side in, okay?
Okay, well, it's lined up.
Okay, here, you hold this again. All right, here we go. Is it lined up front?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. And you can see under here our drip edge. Hey guys, I wanted to ask Spencer a quick question. So here we go.
Hey.
All right, so why do we go through the trouble of putting that shim under this windowsill right here?
Okay, so the purpose of that is to angle it. So normally it would be flat, right? And if it's flat on the outside, water, especially on the bottom here, water is going to pool there and not go away. It's going to stay there and it'll eventually rot out your wood. The cedar itself should be fine, but over 10, 20, 30 years, it will start to rot if water's pooling there consistently. So what we have is we have it on roughly a 15-degree angle, and the water will hit here on the edge of it and will just roll right off.
You can kind of see the angle right there.
And the reason we did the shim behind, I mean, I could have ripped it down to where the whole thing was at a 15-degree. I could have ripped down the whole thing with the slope just on the top and flat on the bottom, but this works just as well, and it's a lot easier. Anna pointed this out to me earlier.
Yeah.
So we're doing it this way. All these holes here, I'm not a big fan of how deep it went. I have it set to the lightest setting. So I'm gonna have to come back and fill them with a little bits of caulk.
Yeah, clear
along.
caulk maybe. Yeah, that kind of went way in there. I guess cedar's just super soft.
This cedar is super soft.
Yeah. Oh, and I have to say that this is a really important thing to do because we have firsthand experience with our own house that had rotted out sills. So our house was built about 40 years ago. And when I went to paint the sills, I could push my finger through the bottom sill of the windows, and we had to emergency scramble and fix our windows.
Well, an important note, it's a cedar sided house, and it's a cedar.
The whole thing
all of it is cedar, and they just put it flat, and that was the major downfall. So, other thing we're doing here, come back over here.
Okay.
This is important.
Okay, what else are we doing?
The other thing we're doing that's different than normal. So in a normal situation, you have your sill, and then you have your stop on top of it.
Yes.
Okay, so normally you'd have that, and let me grab one of these, and you would have your stop on top of it like this, and then your piece of glass would come down here, right? We're not doing it that way. We're having the sill be the stop. And this is different. We're building it in place. And the reason we're building it in place is so that we can do this. If you were building a frame, window frame out, then you would put stops around that frame. But because we're building it in place, we're able to do this where this is the stop. And what that allows me to do, I'm going to put this here because this is where the window will actually be on top of this. But what that will allow that to do, it will allow us to, this still acts as a stop, but it's just one continuous unit. There's no block and a block. Every time you have that, there's a chance of rotting, there's a chance of water penetration. So this way the water hits it, hits that, and goes right off.
And it's pretty simple too.
It is. It's very simple, and it's a good look too. I think it looks better rather than having the stop there. So the whole frame that we're doing here is the stop. Whereas if you were pre-building it, the frame, you would have the frame, and then you would have the stops.
Yeah.
So just so you know the difference, and later we're going to do sliding windows. And the sliding windows will have stops on them, and you're going to see the difference there. We might still do it in a similar way so it has a similar look, but it's going to be probably the frame and then a stop. But we'll see when we get to it.
All right, so yay.
While it's raining just a little bit, we're going ahead and continuing on with our install. So the next part are the pieces up top. There, super solid. Right side is 27 and 1/8. So 27 minus and 27 1/8 on the short side of the 15-degree cut.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna do the 15 degrees here, and then I'll measure and do the...
Right, and show me, see, we're cutting on the dog ear.
Yeah.
So that was a part of the wood that wasn't gonna be used anyway.
Yep, here we go.
guys, we really haven't shown you the inside of our house or anything else. We've done a lot to the inside of our house.
It looks a lot better than this.
Instead,
We
they're
don't even
just
have drywall in here. That's
instead
against code.
they're just seeing our garage,
It's
like,
grandfathered in. We can't get drywall in here. There's too many like pieces.
and they're probably like, this
coming.
isn't a real workshop, and we're like, we know.
Don't even have a workbench. Like, it's crazy.
Well, we drag our miter saw outside almost every time. Right now it's raining, so we can't.
Yeah.
Look at that fit.
All right.
Look at that.
That's actually 10 degrees, not 15.
Okay. All right, so now we have the sides cut. We oiled the ends. And like I was saying, we may just end up not caulking this. It's going to see very little rain, but I'll show you how to caulk it in case you were going to. There you go. And then a few more.
All right. Framed out. Ready for glass.
Okay, so the next step that we have with this installing a window is pre-drilling our holes for our stops. There doesn't, to me, so this is again the inside of a shed. It doesn't really matter where these holes are. If you were doing this for a house, you'd probably be filling these holes. You'd be screwing in and then filling them. So I'm not gonna have any real rhyme or reason. The pre-drilling just keeps the wood from cracking. Okay, so that's that. The next thing that we need to do is take our impact driver, or I guess you could use a screwdriver, but my bit's on the impact driver. And I'm gonna just go ahead and start screws on this. And the reason, these are just, it's again interior, so I'm just using basic construction screws. These are long enough to go about an inch into the wood, which should be fine.
Now, these have any reaction with the cedar?
They may.
This is what we've got.
But this way, when we get the glass in, we don't have to struggle getting the screws in place. It's better to just go ahead and have them in.
So your plan is you'd like to do this with, we just use the real stops and not put in temporary
Yeah,
stops?
that's my plan. It's the real stop. So we were saying yesterday, we may not use that clip, so just in case I be sure to tell you. So if you have a stop even this size, I mean, we're doing a very big window. If you have a stop this size and you have screws in it and you put it up temporarily, and then get your measurements and cut your stops and install them properly, that's enough. Like as long as you have a stop in the bottom and the top.
Yeah, just to keep it from tipping out of the space.
Like, yeah, it's really just as if you were, it's like a second hand. These are the real stops, and I figured that why not use the real stops if we can cut them ahead of time. But we've done it both ways in the past. There's really no right or wrong way as long as the right side stop gets installed eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see that in a second. We'll also caulk behind it because of the rain yesterday, and we had to stop. It's now had a chance to cure the oil, so hopefully maybe
I mean, one
the
day.
caulk will stick to it.
I don't know.
So the caulk that we're using is just clear caulk, not crystal clear. If you were really doing this for a house, I would really suggest getting crystal clear caulk. There is a difference. Clear is not really what you think of when you think of clear. It is, okay, there's no color in that, but I can still see it. Crystal clear is, it's hard to see it when you're 10 feet away.
Yep.
Just making sure you see.
And some of them, I'm gonna go over here, and some of them are paintable and some are not paintable. So there are some crystal clear caulks that you can paint in the future if you ever need to do that in the future. You never know.
Oh, and we're not cutting the side stops at all right now. So we will need the side stops.
Yeah.
But right now I'm not cutting them at all because I don't really know the measurement until these are installed. The other ones were flush with the front, so they're just not going to be the right size.
Yeah, and these will be just enough to keep this in place, and we can put the other ones in a second.
I think it should be sharp anywhere. Yeah.
Yep. All right, so the next step in installing our fixed window, which is a fixed single pane of glass, is to caulk. And what I will be doing is I will be caulking around the entire perimeter on the back side of these stops. These stops are the front stops for the glass. We will be installing some back stops here. But right now I'll be caulking along this entire perimeter. And then we have these shims because our glass was a little bit smaller than the opening. So we have these shims just here. This isn't something you normally have to do. It's just the way the size was. I'll have my bead of caulk. I'll put these shims in, and then I'll caulk on top of the shims. Now this caulk is just basically to kind of keep the window in place, air seal. It's kind of like a secondary line of defense for moisture. So when we have our glass installed in this position, then we will come back on the outside of the building and install a bead of caulk on the front side of the glass on top of this exterior stop block. Right there, right where it meets the window. And that will be the first line of defense against water intrusion.
Oh, and guys, another part to doing this caulk on the bottom is to keep water from coming out on the bottom of it. Like, so if water was to come somehow beneath this and was coming towards the inside, this caulk will stop it and make it go back out.
We say that, but you don't caulk the underside of the trim there.
Right, you want the water to go out, not in. So this keeps it from going in and makes it go out.
Quick note, this should be a thin bead of caulk because if it's too thick, then it'll squish out all over the place. Now that we've done caulking, time to put the glass in. Yeah. Status update.
Okay, so now we have the window installed. It turns out that the shim, we didn't actually need it at the bottom, and it was still a little bit too wide for keeping these stops flush against the glass. So we just took those out, and it still meets the top just fine. We have a few spots where the caulk spilled out over onto the glass, but we can take care of that in a little bit. But for now, we need to put these stops on. So I've put in one screw so far towards the middle, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to work my way down. And again, I don't know if you've already seen this, but we have one screw here and one screw up there, and the glass is staying in place.
Yeah, there's only that one little stop at the top.
It wouldn't hold it for a storm, but it'll hold it for this. So I'm just going to install this. So I'm pushing it forward when I'm installing these. That way it's actually flush to it. Well, I was going to say, in a house, if you want to have extra air sealant, at this point you want to make sure that you have a really good air sealing happening. This is the situation where you would go around this whole piece of glass again and put caulk in here where there's like a gap up here. You'd put caulk up there to make sure that you have a good air sealant. We're not so concerned about air leakage. I don't really want bugs in here, but for our purposes, this is fine. Okay, so now we have our bottom stop and our top stop installed. This glass is not going anywhere. However, we still need to do the sides. So now that I have this, I just need to measure my sides. And they don't have to even be perfectly the correct length. So I'm going to go cut 2 pieces at 27.5. Okay, so I just want to say the window is now officially installed.
Yeah.
On the outside, we still need to go along it with a bead of caulk on the outside, which I might just use blue painter's tape across it just to keep it a really nice small line of caulk. But other than that, this is all set. This window is not going anywhere. It is solid now. Next window.
Yeah. Okay.
Right up on
Hey guys, so that's it for today. We hope you've enjoyed seeing us install these fixed windows. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment and we'll get back to you as much as we can. In the next video, we'll be building and installing sliding windows. We're really excited to share this with you. They're DIY friendly. We think anybody can build them and they look great. So we're excited about that. Can't wait to share that with you. In the meantime, please like and subscribe and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.
Running wild on this summer night, sitting by the traffic light zone.